Well, thank you very much, everyone, for your patience tonight, but I think you'll find the wait is going to be well worth it. Good evening, and whether you're one of the few thousand online or in person here in the iconic Gaston Hall, welcome to Georgetown University. I am Pete Mare. I am the Dean of the Earth Commons, the Georgetown University's Institute for Environment and Sustainability, and I'm the Laudato Si Professor of Biology and the Environment.
Hi, everybody. I'm Derek Goldman. I'm a professor of performing arts and also in the School of Foreign Service, a faculty fellow with the Earth Commons working at the intersection of arts, humanities, and the environment. And I'm artistic and executive director and co-founder with Cynthia Schneider of the Lab for Global Performance and Politics, which is a joint initiative of the School of Foreign Service and the College of Arts and Sciences with a mission to humanize global politics through performance.
And environment.
And environment.
This collaboration that the Earth Commons has done with the lab has been especially vital in many of the performances that we've collaborated on, including performances at the Royal National Theatre of Sweden, several at the Kennedy Center, and many, many with our students and faculty on a variety of our campuses. Tonight, we welcome the Theatre of War Productions to Georgetown University for this special presentation of the Oedipus Project as part of DC Climate Week 2026 and our own Earth Week. At the Earth Commons, we work at the intersection of interdisciplinary environmental education, research, and service. We rely on data, we rely on hard facts. They, of course, are essential. But facts alone, as we all know, are not enough. And it's one of the reasons we also work in the arts and the humanities. Science helps you understand, and the humanities and the arts and humanities help us feel.
At the lab, we've been building on this collaboration with Theatre of War for several years. Tonight, thanks to all of you, marks the launch of a deeper ongoing partnership with them. It includes a new co-created project in development between the lab and Theatre of War, inspired by the trial and death of Socrates, that will integrate the lab's signature In Your Shoes method to gather and weave personal perspectives from students and citizens around questions of doubt, inquiry, what one is willing to stand for in the name of truth. This work of Earth Commons and Theatre of War is at the heart of the lab's broader Art of Care initiative, which advances the idea that art and care are profoundly linked, and that this connection can lead to more caring systems, better health outcomes, and a more just world. And what we're doing tonight, thanks to you and Brian, and what the way this audience will turn to you, is ancient and elemental, gathering in community to reflect and wrestle with urgent questions through the arts. It's part of what we've been calling a declaration of interdependence. And here I want to acknowledge President Groves and his leadership and commitment to dialogue across difference through projects like the Georgetown Dialogue Initiative and others. We see this work as deeply connected to Georgetown's value of cura personalis, care for the whole person, which is very much at the heart of this initiative. And I think one definition of care is the opposite of apathy. The fact that so many of you have shown up literally and have been here speaks to the urgency and appetite for this kind of communal civic forum. So thank you. That's one of theater's most essential roles over thousands of years in a functioning democracy.
So tonight, the Oedipus Project presents acclaimed actors, public servants, community members reading scenes from Sophocles' Oedipus the King, as translated and directed by Theatre of War Productions artistic director Brian Dories. The Oedipus Project is a catalyst for powerful, constructive global discussions about complex global issues. Tonight, the focus is on climate change, ecological disaster, ethical leadership, and environmental justice. Topics, frankly, that could use some discussion and deep thinking right now. Following the reading, we will hear comments from a group of community panelists who will respond to what they heard in the ancient play that resonated with their own experiences across time. Following the community panel, we will open it up for the floor here at Gaston and also on Zoom, so be ready. For people joining us from all over the world, for what we hope will be a lively audience discussion. We strongly encourage participation in this discussion as much as possible and throughout. Right now, make sure your cell phones are silenced. So we'll turn it over now to the Theater of War Productions and to Artistic Director Brian Dories, who will introduce the cast members.
Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you all for showing up tonight. I know security took a while, but we're grateful you're all in your seats and you're here with us in this beautiful, historic Gaston Hall. And thank you for those joining on Zoom for your patience and waiting for the in-person audience to gather and convene here. I was told that there regularly isn't a crowd here of this magnitude, except when President Barack Obama is here, so we'll take that. I know it's not because of me, I know it's because of these amazing performers behind us and what we're about to do. So I want to quickly just, if you could hold your applause to the end, just introduce the folks that are here. Erika Rose, Chuck Schumer, Bill Irwin, Mayor Winningham, who stepped in for Catherine Irby, who couldn't be here tonight, Jesse Eisenberg, Jumaane Williams, Tony Fauci, and Craig Wallace. This is our amazing cast for tonight. These actors and public servants are part of a much larger company. Theater of War Productions has over 250 performers and community members and actors. I was saying to Tony, who's playing the blind prophet Tiresias, I was telling him about when Margaret Atwood played the blind prophet Tiresias. We've had lots of Tiresiases, and we're so grateful that Tony is here to play Tiresias for us here tonight. But we have all these actors all over the country and the world that when they get the call, do you want to get up the crack of dawn, fly in the back of a plane, stay in a Holiday Inn often and rehearse till midnight until security is called on us, and then perform Greek tragedy for 1,000 Marines or inmates or people living in climate-impacted communities or churches or synagogues, they jump at the opportunity to do this because it's very rare in their profession to do something that feels like it's of service with their craft. And that's what we hope tonight will be, an act of service. In our model, there are two things. One is that the audience knows more than we do. That's a tenet of our work. And if you don't believe us, you'll see soon, because we're going to pass the mic to you, because we believe in democratic, pluralistic discourse, and we believe that the audience is the main character. We also believe that the audience is 10 steps ahead of us, so that's why we have Jesse Eisenberg here to shave at least 10 minutes off the performance runtime by whipping the thing forward tonight, which is music to my ears as the translator, because it couldn't be fast enough. Because this ancient play by Sophocles is written like a beautiful Swiss watch is designed. All the gears are wound tightly and they move with a precision that only these actors can bring to life. So these actors are going to perform. As soon as they're done, they're going to come sit in the audience. We're going to bring 3 members of your community up and 1 on Zoom to respond from their hearts and their guts to what they heard and saw in the play that resonated with them, that touched them, that was true to them here in this space. And then as soon as they're done with their brief opening remarks, I'm going to come out to you and ask you questions. Ask you questions we've been asking since May 7th, 2020, when we premiered this project on Zoom for 15,000 people from 42 countries who all wanted to connect during the pandemic with each other and talk about ignored prophecies, arrogant leadership, intergenerational curses, and a pestilence and plague that was ravaging our people and our land. Tonight, we're here to talk about many interrelated and interdependent things, but the core idea is to talk about our earth and what we owe it and what we owe each other, and as stewards of it, the human capacity for denial and what it will take to wake up before it's too late and not ruin generations to come. That's the context of what we're going to perform. We can't wait to hear from you, the main chorus of the event. So I'm going to stop talking and just briefly jump into the play so we can get right down to business. We will go a little past the appointed time because we started a little late, and that's just the way it's going to be. If you want to dance in the aisles or if you have to excuse yourself and come back, that's okay. We think of this more like a meeting than a play. It's not to be consumed. It's just a catalyst for a discussion that wouldn't have happened had we not performed Sophocles' play. And there's nothing precious about it. We rehearsed for about an hour and a half. We say in our model, anyone who makes a mistake gets a bonus. It goes for the audience too, because making mistakes is what makes us human. And I don't know about you, but I make a lot of mistakes. And how I define what it means to be a professional is making mistakes and then recovering from them. And the thrill of live theater is watching people recover over and over again. And the thrill of our democratic discussions is watching people find their words as they process them out loud and recover and find new possibilities by being present with their thoughts and with each other. So that's the idea behind the exercise. It's kind of the inside out of most cultural offerings, which is why the lights are going to remain up the entire time. 16 years ago, Oedipus traveled from Corinth to an oracle at Delphi in search of his true identity. He had a hunch that maybe he wasn't who he said he was or who people thought he was, deep inside his body. After visiting the oracle, he traveled to Thebes, which at the time was under the attack of a bloodthirsty sphinx, a monster with the head of a woman, the body of a lion, and the wings of a bird, which for some time had been terrorizing the city and murdering its citizens. Oedipus answered the riddle of the Sphinx and defeated her. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? And he responded, man, or humanity, freeing the people of Thebes from the Sphinx forever. And as a reward, Oedipus was made king of Thebes and married their queen, Jocasta. Fast forward 18 years, the city of Thebes is under attack yet again, but this time by a plague and a pestilence that is killing its people and killing its livestock and ravaging its crops. The citizens of Thebes have gathered, and by that I mean both the chorus members on stage and all of you. They've gathered on the steps of the palace to ask Oedipus to save the city once again. Without further ado, our adaptation of Sophocles' Oedipus the King.
Children of Thebes, why are you here, kneeling with wreaths at my feet as the city air thickens with songs and smoke, incense and hymns drifting low over lamentations and groans? It would have been wrong, my children, to somehow hear this from others. That is why I, Oedipus, whose legend is known throughout the land, have come to hear it from you. Rise, old priests, and speak for the rest, as is your right by seniority. Has some sudden terror or unforeseen fear sent you scurrying here? Rest assured, I will do whatever I can to help, for I truly would be callous if I felt nothing from men like you, bending in supplication in front of the palace steps.
Oedipus, our king, you see beggars of all ages huddled at your altars, boys too young to walk on their own, feeble old men hunched over with age, unmarried youths selected to serve, and priests of Thebes, of which I am one. Many others are now gathered in the center of the city, bearing branches at the temple of Athena or on the banks of the river Ismenus, near the oracular ashes where Apollo speaks in riddles through the smoke. Look! And you will see a storm-battered city drowning in an ocean of blood, no longer able to lift her head above the cresting waves. A savage pestilence has ravaged the land, killing the cattle and the crops. Our women die in labor, delivering shriveled little corpses as the hateful plague spreads like a raging wildflower. And wildfire devouring the city without mercy, emptying homes and filling the streets with moans and wailing and heaps of rotting bodies while death-rich Hades makes off with the shades. We who kneel at your feet do not pray to you as a god, but as the best of men, which you have shown throughout your actions and your dealings with the divine. You have come to our city and without guidance or advice, released us from the deadly tribute we had long been paying that unsparing singer, the bloodthirsty Sphinx. You lifted us back up, restoring our hope, answering our prayers. Surely this was done with the help of a god. We come again, Oedipus, vulnerable and weak, bowing our heads to ask your protection. Use your unmatchable strength to save us from this plague. Maybe you received a message from a god, or even some man, perhaps a counselor who advises you during times of crisis. Tell us what you know. Lift up the city again, best of men. We still call you Savior because of past actions. Don't let the present calamity strip you of your rightful rule. Ensure that you are remembered for all time as a great leader, not as one who helped us stand, only to let us fall. You started this. Now finish the story. Put us back on the path to health and prosperity. Years ago, you arrived like an auspicious omen, reversing our fortune in an instant. Do it again, Oedipus! Rule our land as is your right, but preside over the living, not the dead. For if you continue down the current path, there will soon be no one to rule. A city, like a ship, is nothing without men within its walls.
Children, I am sorry. I know. How could I not have known what brought you here? Sick as you are, none of you is sicker than I. Your pain is singular, contained. Each of you must suffer on his own. But my soul aches for the whole city, for you and for me. No, you did not wake me up from slumber. It is hard to sleep when you have been weeping and your mind is reeling, exploring every angle, searching for a solution. Alone with my thoughts for many long nights, I did the only thing that seemed reasonable. I sent my brother-in-law, Creon, to Delphi to ask the oracle what I must do to save the city. But too many days have passed, and since he set out, and I'm starting to worry that something has happened on the road home, it is not like him to be late. But when he arrives, I would be a weak leader if I did not follow the god's orders.
Whoa! What timing! Those men just waved to say that Creon has crested the hill.
Lord Apollo, may he arrive smiling brightly, his eyes beaming with good fortune.
The news must be favorable. Why else would he be wreathed in laurels?
We will know soon enough. He's almost here. Lord Creon, my brother, my friend, what message do you bring us from the gods?
A favorable one. For even news that is at first hard to hear can prove auspicious as long as it all works out in the end.
Your words fill me with neither fear nor relief. What exactly did he say?
I can say it here in front of these men if you'd like, or perhaps we can go inside.
Oh, say it now in front of all of us. Their lives mean more to me than my own.
Okay. Here is what I heard the oracle say. As clearly as I am speaking to you now, Apollo commands us to excise a vile pollution from our land, a metastatizing cancer that we have long harbored unwittingly for many years, nurturing and feeding it like a growing fetus while it made us all sick. We must stop the contamination from spreading any further, or the city will never be cured.
And how do we treat this disease? What remedy or ritual will cleanse the city of this vile pollution?
By exile or execution. We must expiate the murderer that brought this blood storm upon us.
Who was murdered and by whom?
Before you arrived and saved the city, a king named Laius ruled this land.
I know, I've heard of him, but I never saw him.
He was murdered, left to die in the dirt, and now the god commands us, in no uncertain terms, to punish those who killed him, no matter who they are.
But how on earth will we find them? The crime took place so long ago, the evidence has grown cold.
Apollo said to look in Thebes. What we seek will be found. What we ignore will evade our eyes.
And where did Laius die? In the palace, or the mountains, or on foreign soil?
He left for Delphi to see the oracle, or so people said. He never returned.
Did anyone witness the crime whom we could question, perhaps one of his fellow travelers?
Only one survived, and he was so shaken by what he had seen that he said very little.
What did he say? Even something small or seemingly insignificant could put us on the path to learning more.
He said that Laius died, not at the hand of one, but at the hand of many highwaymen who ambushed them from all sides.
But why would a highwayman dare to kill a king? Unless, of course, he was hired or paid by someone here in Thebes.
The thought certainly crossed our minds, but after Laius died, we were leaderless and lost, with no one to help us deal with our then-present problems.
I don't understand. Your king was dead. What problems kept you from mounting a full investigation into his murder?
The riddling Sphinx forced us to focus on what was right in front of us instead of what lay behind us, hidden in the shadows.
And I will shine a light unto the darkness of the past. I will illuminate it all. Apollo is right, and so are you, to show such concern for the murdered king. I will now join you in the struggle for justice, and once again stand up for the city of Thebes as the god commands. I will purge us of the pollution, not on behalf of some distant relation, but selfishly on my own behalf, for whoever killed Laius may one day try to kill me. By defending him, I protect myself. Come, children, rise quickly and remove your branches and wreaths. Someone go gather the people of Thebes, and knowing that I will do everything in my power to solve this mystery and uncover the truth. With the gods' help, we will either succeed or we will all perish.
Stand up, children. We've heard the words we came for. Now it's up to the god, the one who sent the prophecy to save us from the plague.
Sweet word of God, which drafts up in vapors from the darkest depths into the Pythian priestess, who sits on earth's navel, breathing in the fumes and exhaling your will in riddles that sail down from golden Delphi to glorious Thebes.
I'm trembling with terror, reeling with fear.
Lord Apollo, Delian healer, I now bow before your awe-inspiring power.
What do you have in store for us, and when will it end?
What must we do to appease your anger?
A single sacrifice, or year-round rituals in your honor?
Tell me, eternal oracle, offspring of golden hope.
I call upon Athena, daughter of Zeus, and her sister Artemis, well known throughout Thebes, who watches over all of us from her throne above the city.
I call upon Apollo, the archer, whose arrows never miss.
All three appear and protect me from death, as you have in the past, when annihilation seemed almost certain, and you came at last to extinguish the flames just before they swallowed the city.
Come to us again.
Our suffering is beyond measure.
The people of Thebes are sick and can find no words to cure the disease, nor scalpel, nor sword that will halt its progression.
And the crops wither and the fields grow fallow.
And our women cry out, straining under the relentless pain of labor, but never give birth.
The people are dying.
You can see them, dropping here and there, faster than a ravenous fire, plummeting like wide-winged birds from the sky to the distant shores of Hades, land of gloom and shadows.
Immeasurable death overwhelms the city.
The corpses of children in the streets, unburied, with no one left to mourn them or tend to their bodies, while white-haired widows and young mothers gather round altars, groaning and wailing and begging for an end to their endless suffering.
Hymns to the healer can be heard throughout the city over shrieks and grief and weeping.
Please, Athena, daughter of Zeus, fill us with hope, deliver us from death.
I call out to Ares, the savage god of war, who attacks innocent civilians without swords or shields, scorching the earth around us, burning us back to ashes. Leave our land and abandon your assault upon this city for open waters in the west, or the ragged cliffs and exposed coves of Thrace.
Those who are spared by night, he stalks and kills by light of day.
I call on Zeus, father of all, destroy him from above with a blazing bolt of lightning.
I call out to Apollo, rain down your arrows with your golden bow. Defend me from death.
You have made a request. With regard to your request, if you are willing to listen and do as I say, adhering to the treatment that I will now prescribe for the disease, then you soon may be saved, relieved of your suffering. I will speak these words as a stranger to the crime and the story that surrounds it. Also, without evidence or something small to go on, it would have been impossible, even at the time when it happened, to properly investigate the murder. Be that as it may, I arrived and became a citizen of Thebes only after the fact. And so I call upon you, my fellow citizens, descendants of Cadmus, whoever knows what happened to King Laius on that fateful day, who killed him, and how he came to die, step forward and reveal the truth to me. If you are afraid to speak or worried that you might somehow incriminate yourself and become your own executioner, know this: if you speak, no violence will be brought upon you. If you step forward now, you have my word that you will be allowed to leave Thebes in peace without so much as a scratch. Or if one of you knows the culprit to be a foreigner, a stranger from another land, tell me his name, and I will show you how I reward honesty with gratitude and ample compensation. But if one of you knows and refuses to break the silence, rejecting the offer now waiting on the table in order to protect a relative, a friend, or even yourself, listen closely and hear how I will deal with you. I hereby proclaim that no one living within this land, over which I rule as sovereign king, will house you, or speak to you, or so much as look in your direction. You no longer exist. You may not join us in prayers, or make sacrifices to the gods, or cleanse yourself with holy water. You will be evicted from our homes and routed out of the city as the source of our festering infection, which the oracle has just made known to us. This is how I will honor the god and defend the man whom you murdered, struggling alongside them both for justice. I now curse the murderer, whoever he may be, a lone man or a band of conspirators. I also curse myself, if I have somehow harbored the criminal within my home unwittingly. May then I be treated no differently than any of you. I command you to obey this decree, not only on my behalf, but for Apollo and for the city, which has been brought to its knees, begging for mercy by an angry God, exacting his wrath upon our people. It's the right thing to do. Even if the oracle had not spoken, it was wrong of you to leave the murder unsolved. You should have hunted the killer down and brought him to justice. The blood of your king demands it. But now that I sit on the throne where he once sat, enjoying his power, as well as his wife, who has borne me beautiful children, I see that he had been luckier. I see that had he been luckier with regard to his offspring, and had he not been taken down by fate, our children would have shared a mother. In this respect, I regard him as my father, and I shall fight for him as such, leaving no stone unturned in my tireless search for his murderer. For those who refuse to heed my words, I invoke this curse. May your crops dry up and die, and your women's wombs be barren forever, and may you all be erased from this earth by the hateful plague or something worse. But for those who obey and approve of my actions, may justice remain on our side, and the gods look favorably upon us forever.
I will speak, since you have cursed me if I don't. I did not kill King Laius, nor do I know who did. But it seems to me that the search for the murderer should fall to the God who sent us the prophecy.
Fair enough, but no man can force the gods to act if they're not willing.
Then may I suggest another approach?
As many as you'd like. Speak. Don't hold back.
The one with the greatest insight into what Apollo sees and says is Tiresias. If you asked for his help, he might pull back the veil and illuminate the truth.
Rest assured, I have not been sitting on my hands. At Creon's urging, I already sent for him, but I must admit it's taking far longer than I expected for him to appear.
Everything else is hazy, unsubstantiated rumor.
What else have you heard? I want to inspect every story.
It has been said that King Laius was murdered by highwaymen.
I've heard that as well, but where is the murderer?
If the man feels fear, he'll come out of hiding when he hears your curse.
If he wasn't afraid of the deed, he won't be afraid of my words.
Here comes the one who will name him, the holy seer, Tiresias, in whom the gods have imbued the truth, is now being led this way.
Ah, Tiresias. Yes, we are all so pleased. You, who perceive all things, that which can be understood by the human mind and that which is beyond our comprehension, things in the heavens and things that are on earth, you who are blind but see our present troubles clearly and know how terribly the people suffer, ravaged by this awful pestilence. You are our protector, our savior, our only hope for survival. If, by chance, you haven't heard the news from one of our messengers, we sent word from Apollo, and here is what he sent back in return. Until we track down the man who long ago killed Laius and either execute them or expel them from Thebes, we will never find relief from this disease. Speak freely. Tell us all that you know from consulting the birds or any other method of divining the future that you have mastered. Save yourself and the city. Save me. Save us all from the foul pollution spreading from the dead man's corpse. We are in your hands. The noblest calling is to help others in need with your gifts.
Ah, how terrible it is to know when, in the end, knowing gains you nothing. I knew this once, but must have somehow forgotten, or else I never would have come.
What is the matter? Why the heavy heart?
Send me home, dispatch me from this place. It will be easier that way. You can hear your burden, and I mine.
That would not only be against the law, but hostile to the city that has nourished and cared for you all these years, since you would be concealing what you know.
Because I see that your words will lead us down the wrong road, and do not wish to follow you there.
If you know something, please, by the gods, we are begging on our knees, do not turn your back on us.
You know nothing. I will never reveal the riddles within me or the evil in you.
What did you just say? You know, but refuse to speak and would rather betray us and leave Thebes in ruins?
I refuse to inflict pain upon myself by inflicting it on you. Your questions are useless, and you will learn nothing from continuing to question me.
Worst of the worst. Vilest of the vile. You could provoke a lifeless stone to lose its temper. Will you never speak? Or would you prefer to be seen as obstinate and without feelings?
Say what you will about me or my temper, but you are unaware of the one with which you live.
Who could listen to your brazen insults and your outright contempt for the city and not be enraged?
It will all unfold on its own, even if I remain silent.
Then why not tell me all that you know?
I will say nothing else. Therefore, feel free to spew all of your vitriol and rage in my direction.
Oh, fine. I will. I am so furious that I will now say everything on my mind. I believe that you were responsible for Laius' murder. You planned it, and while you may not have strangled him with your own hands, make no mistake, they are stained with his blood. If you weren't blind, I would say you did it on your own.
And I say that you should obey your own decree, and from this moment forward, turn away from me and these people and never speak to us again, since you are the unholy contagion plaguing this land.
How shameful it is for a man of your stature to tell lies and fabricate stories. You actually believe you'll get away with it?
I already have, for the power of truth resides within me.
Ah, and from whom did you learn this? Certainly it wasn't derived from consulting the birds.
From you, who made me speak against my will.
Say it again, I want to hear it clearly.
Did you not hear what I said the first time? Or are you just trying to trap me?
I didn't catch it all. Speak, say it again.
I say that you are the murderer for whom you are searching.
You will not say that twice and walk away unscathed.
Would you like me to say more to feed your rage?
Oh, say whatever you like. Your words mean nothing to me now.
I say you are living in shameful relation with your closest kin, but do not know it. You cannot see the evil within your own home.
Do you really think you can continue to spew such filth with immunity?
Yes, the truth is strong enough to protect me.
That much is true, but you know nothing of the truth, since you are blind in your ears, blind in your eyes, blind in your mind.
How sad. All of these insulting words will soon be spoken about you by your people.
Since you dwell in the darkness of permanent night, no man who sees the light of day will ever be damaged by you.
It is not your fate to fall because of me. Apollo will take care of that.
Whose idea was it to make these shameful accusations? Was it yours? Was it Creon's, or perhaps someone else's?
Creon is not your enemy. You are.
Wealth, power, unsurpassed skill. These are the things that men like you always envy, harboring hatred for those who wear the crown. I did not ask for it. It was given to me freely by the people of Thebes as a gift. And now Creon, my loyal friend from the very beginning, has hatched a secret plan to expel me from office, all the while desiring it for himself. He is the one who sent this snake oil salesman, this so-called expert, this psychic, an assassin in beggar's clothes who can see plainly enough when it comes to making a profit, but is bankrupt and blind when it comes to his craft. Now tell me, Tiresias, if you truly are a prophet, where were you when the savage Sphinx was attacking these people? Why didn't you simply answer her riddle and liberate the city from terror? If you are so wise, why were you so quiet? The riddle required real vision and insight, and in your silence, you were both shown to be lacking, and you were shown to be lacking in both. It's all a scam. It's a scam. You know nothing about interpreting the birds, let alone the will of the gods. It was I, Oedipus, who supposedly knows nothing, who arrived here and immediately stopped the Sphinx, using reason and wit to answer her riddle. I had no help from your feathered friends. And now you wish to throw me from the throne, hoping to stand closest to Creon when he wears the crown. You and your co-conspirator, I think, will soon lament the day you concocted the plot to drive the pollution from this land. And if you weren't such a silly, senile old man, you would have already learned the danger of your behavior by suffering gravely on account of it.
It seems, Oedipus, that you have both spoken out in anger.
This is not what the city needs.
Instead, we should all be investigating the god's prophecy and how best to fulfill it.
Though you are king, we remain equal in at least one respect, the power to refute accusations, word for word. For I am not your slave, nor do I serve Creon as you suggest. I answer to Loxias, Apollo, who is my only master. Since you have made light of my blindness, I say that you are the one who is blind. You cannot see the evil that surrounds you, the inequity within your home, or the identity of the person with whom you live. Do you even know where you came from, or the names of your parents? You are an enemy to your own, above and below the earth, and you don't know it. The dreadful double-edged curse of your mother and father will one day send you stumbling from this land. You may see the light now, but you will soon be pitched into utter darkness. And on that day, the day when you finally discover the truth about your marriage, that profane harbor into which you once sailed on strong, steady winds, your shrieking and bellowing will be heard throughout the world, echoing and reverberating over the peaks of Mount Kitteron. There are even worse horrors on the horizon for you and your family, unimaginable evils that will wipe out your entire line, destroying you along with your children. So feel free to continue slandering me and Creon for the things I have said. You will be ground down to powder, and no man will suffer as savagely as you.
That's it. I'm done. I can no longer stand the sound of this man's blathering. Leave, go, stumble away from my home, back to where you came from, and die.
Had you not called for me, I never would have come.
Had I known how stupidly you would speak, I would never have sent for you.
Maybe I am stupid, as you say, but your parents, the one who gave you life, thought me wise.
Wait, what do you mean? Who were my parents?
This day will birth you and destroy you.
You only speak in riddles, purposely obscuring your meaning.
Are you not an expert in answering riddles?
Oh, keep trying to provoke me and you will see what makes me great.
Your greatness will destroy you.
A small price to pay for saving the city.
Then I will go. Boy, lead me away.
Yes, boy, lead him away from this place. You have been nothing but a headache since you came, and I will be relieved to see you go.
I am going, but not before saying one last thing, which I will speak without fear. For you are not the man who will destroy me. The man you've been searching for, tracking him down and routing him out with threats, curses, and proclamations, the one who killed King Laius, he is here now in Thebes. He is known as an outsider who came from another country, but it will soon be revealed that he is actually Theban by birth. But he will find no comfort in that discovery. Once wealthy and powerful, he will wander the open roads like a blind beggar groping in the darkness, scratching his way around in the dirt with a stick. And he will soon discover himself to be both father and brother to his own children, husband and son to the woman who bore him, murderer and wife defiler to his father. Go inside. Think it over. And if you find that I am wrong, tell everyone I'm a blind old fool whose prophecies mean nothing.
You there. How dare you show your hateful face upon the palace steps, a murderer and an attempted assassin who believed he could overtake me and throw me from my throne? Tell me, have you so little regard for me or my intelligence that you actually thought I wouldn't notice when you snuck up from behind in the shadows and hatched your plan? Did you foolishly presume that once I knew it was you, I would stand by idly, or that I would not defend myself or retaliate with everything at my disposal? What on earth were you thinking when you set out to depose a ruler without money in your pockets or an army at your back? Any idiot can tell you that it takes wealth and the loyal support of a people to win a kingdom.
Here's a thought. Why don't you listen openly to what I'm about to say, refuting your accusations word for word, and then, when I'm done, render your judgment.
You are a skilled speaker, And I am a poor listener when it comes to hearing out men who are clearly plotting against me.
First, listen to this.
First, do not expect me to believe that you are not a traitor.
If you think being pig-headed and unyielding is a good idea at this moment, then you are not thinking straight.
If you can attempt to harm a relative and not pay a price, then you have lost your mind.
I won't argue with that. But what exactly have I done? I want to hear it in your own words.
Did you or did you not convince me that I should send for the so-called seer?
Yes, and I would do it again.
How long has it been since Laius
Did what? I don't follow your words.
was murdered?
Many years have passed since it happened.
And at the time, was the seer actively practicing his craft?
Yes, he was equally revered as being just as wise then as he is now.
And did he ever mention my name?
Never in my presence.
Certainly, you looked into the murder and searched everywhere for the killer.
Yes, of course, but we found nothing.
Then why didn't the wise prophet tell you everything then?
I don't know. And when I don't understand, I prefer to say nothing.
But there is something you know and could say if you were an honest man.
What is it? If you tell me, I will not refute to share what I know.
That if he hadn't been colluding with you, he would never have accused me of murdering Laius.
Only you know if that's what he said. But I invoke my right to question you just as you have questioned me.
Go ahead. Ask me whatever you wish. You will not prove me to be a murderer.
Are you married to my sister?
If that's really a question, then my answer is yes.
And do you rule Thebes equally with her, sharing all of your power?
She gets whatever she wishes from me.
And am I not equal in power to you both?
Yeah, that is why you're a backstabbing traitor and not a friend.
And not if you consider it from where I stand. Think about it. Who would choose to be king and rule in constant fear if it were possible to share the sovereign's powers and yet still sleep soundly at night? Am I not a man with ambition to be ruler, and yet I am treated like one by the people? I have all that I need and nothing to fear, but if I were king, I would be compelled to do many distasteful things against my wishes. Why would I lust after your throne when I already have power and sway without the burden that comes with responsibility? I would never be so crazy as to desire anything beyond what brings pleasure and profit. Everyone greets me. Men salute me. Anyone who wants something from you seeks my advice, which always ensures a favorable outcome. Why would I give up what I have now in order to take on your problems? I would never contemplate trading places with you, nor would I consort with anyone who entertains such a treasonous idea. If you wish to verify what I have said, go to Delphi. Ask about the oracle and whether I relate it accurately. Then if you should discover that I have plotted against you with the prophet, condemn me to die. Not by a single vote, but by two, yours and mine. But do not convict me without any evidence based on a suspicion or a whim. It is not right to judge bad men good or good men bad. To throw away a loyal friend is to throw away your own life. In time, you will come to see this all clearly. Since only unfolding time unveils the just, while the unrighteous are exposed in a single day.
Creon has spoken well, my lord, and offers you wise counsel for those who rush to judgment and act rashly without pausing to consider all sides of the story, often slip and hurt themselves.
When a conspirator sneaks up stealthily in the shadows, I must be quick to respond, for if I wait patiently for the plot to unfold, he will accomplish his mission and I will be defeated.
Are you actually planning to banish me from this land?
No, you are to be executed, not exiled.
Why are you filled with such envy and enmity?
You clearly don't believe my words. Do you seriously think I won't do it?
I think you have no idea what you're doing.
I am defending myself.
By attacking me?
You are a traitor.
You understand nothing.
Regardless, I am king.
Not for much longer if you choose to rule poorly.
I rule at the pleasure of the people, not you.
They are my people too. I share in your power.
Stop.
I see Jocasta coming out of the house at precisely the right moment to intervene and help you resolve your differences.
What is wrong with you wretched men? You should be ashamed of yourselves, squabbling over private matters on the palace steps. There are people suffering out there, dying from the hateful plague, and this is what you choose to do with your time? Come inside. You too, Creon, and we'll settle things in private. And both of you quit making something out of nothing.
Sister, your husband, Oedipus, plans to inflict terrible punishments upon me, exile or death.
In this instance, he speaks the truth, for I caught him plotting evil schemes against me, intending to do me harm.
May I never again take pleasure in my life, but die horribly. crushed under the weight of your curse if I have ever committed any of the acts with which you have charged me.
By the gods, Oedipus, please believe him. Show some respect for the oath that he has sworn before the gods. Believe him for me and for these people.
I beg you, Oedipus, listen to your wife and do as she asks.
What would you have me do?
Respect this man who was never petty or small in the past and has only grown in stature since you've known him.
Are you fully understanding what you're asking me to do?
Yes.
Tell me, in your own words.
Do not curse a loyal friend who has taken an oath to die by denying him the right to speak and defend himself.
Understand that you are asking for me to either die or be exiled.
I swear now before Helios, greatest of all the gods, may I die a wretched death, abandoned by all of my friends if I ever entertain such a horrible thought. My heart breaks for Thebes. The city has been devastated by an evil disease. Our people are already suffering in such unthinkable misery. Must you exacerbate our pain by pouring fuel on the flames?
Let him go. Even if it means I will die or be banished from this land. Know that I have been moved by your words, not his. Never his. For I will always hate him wherever he should go.
I am relieved to see your rage finally begin to subside, though you clearly still simmer with hatred for me. Uncontrollable tempers such as yours are hardest on the men who possess them, and for good reason.
Will you not leave this place? Get out of my sight.
I will go. I am baffled by your actions, but grateful for these people for defending me.
My lady, why don't you follow him inside and make sure he's all right?
I will. As soon as you tell me what happened.
Things were said in ignorance based on rumors that caused their tempers to flare.
Both men?
That's right.
What things were said?
Things that need not be repeated for the good of the city. Let it rest.
Do you now see what you have done in spite of your best intentions by taking his side and dampening my anger?
My lord, I have said it several times now, but please hear it again. I would be seen as a raving madman, an idiot, if I ever turned my back on you, who, when the city was battered by a sea of troubles, sailed us steadily back to shore. I only ask that you do it again.
What filled your heart with such rage? I'm begging you to explain what happened.
I will tell you, since I have more respect for you, my dear, than anyone else in the whole world. I've just caught Creon plotting against me.
In what way?
He says that I murdered Laius.
Based on what? Knowledge or speculation?
Oh, he didn't stain his lips to say, but sent a false prophet to do his dirty work.
Then put your mind at ease, my lord, and listen to my story. No man possesses the gift of prophecy. I know this from experience and will prove it to you in just a few moments. Long ago, we received a prophecy, not from Apollo, but from one of his attendants, which said that Laius would die at the hand of his own son, our son, who was yet to be born. But as the story goes, Laius died at the hands of highwaymen at the place where 3 roads meet. As for our son, 3 days after he was born, Laius pierced and bound his ankles and had him exposed on the remote side of a mountain. So you see, Apollo's prophecy never came true. Our son did not murder his father, and Laius did not die, as he had so feared, at the hands of his own son. This was what the priest predicted, and yet none of it ever came to pass. So pay no mind to prophecies. If the God wants to say something, he'll make it known by speaking directly, not through some intermediary.
Something that I heard you just say has shaken me deeply. Sending a chill through my spine.
What was it? Why do you look so worried?
The place where 3 roads meet. Was that where you say Laius died?
Yes, that was the story and still is to this day.
Where exactly did the murder take place?
The country of Phocis, where 2 roads running from Delphi and Daulis merged to become one.
And how long has it been since it happened?
It happened right before you arrived and became king.
Oh! Zeus! What have you done? What did you have in store for me all along?
What is it, Oedipus? Why are you clutching your chest in pain?
Oh, not now. At least not yet. No. Laius, how old was he and what did he look like?
About the same size as you and had black hair that was just starting to go white.
Oh, I am wretched. I have cursed myself, it seems, without knowing.
What are you saying? I'm afraid to look in your direction.
And I'm afraid the blind seer has the gift of sight. But tell me one thing that will illuminate the truth.
I'm scared to say another word, but ask and I will answer if I can.
Were there many traveling with him on the road as would be fit of a king, or were there only a few?
There were 5 men. One was a messenger and a lone wagon on which Laius rode.
I see. It couldn't be clearer now. From whom did you learn all of this?
A slave, the only one who survived.
And this slave, is he inside?
No. As soon as he returned and saw you sitting in Laius' throne, he fell to his knees, grasped my hand tightly, and begged me to send him to the countryside, to toil in the pastures and the fields, so he could be as far away from here as possible. I sent him right away, for he deserved my blessings and more.
If you sent for him now, would he return right away?
Yes. But first tell me why you wish to see him.
Oh, I'm afraid I've already said too much. This is why I wish to see him.
Well, then I will call for him and he will come. But in turn, my lord, I think I deserve to know what is now weighing on your shoulders.
Indeed, you do. And I will tell you everything now that we've almost reached the moment of truth when all will be revealed. I can hardly wait for it to come. No one deserves to hear this more than you, for it concerns us both. My father was Polybus, my mother Merope. Both were from Corinth. I was always treated by the citizens with the greatest respect as the rightful heir to the throne, until one day something happened by chance, something that strange, but at least on the surface not worth obsessing over. A man at dinner, a drunk, who had imbibed too much wine, lost control of his tongue and said that I was not his father's son. His words couldn't have upset me more. That night I lay in bed, I was brooding, I could barely control my emotions. The next day I went straight to my parents and questioned them about what the man had said. Naturally, they were furious and punished him severely for mocking me. And at first, of course, I found this comforting, but his words stayed with me. For some reason, I couldn't seem to shake them, or the thought which haunted me most, that maybe he was right. So I slipped away from the palace, and without my parents knowing, I went to Delphi to visit the oracle. But Apollo sent me home empty-handed, without answers to my vexing questions, tormenting me instead with an awful prophecy that I was fated to lie with my mother and spawn monstrous offspring, so hideous and repugnant that men would avert their eyes whenever they were near. Finally, the oracle foretold that I would one day murder my own father, the one who gave me life. I packed my bags and ran away as fast as my feet would carry me, using the stars to chart a course as far away from Corinth as I could travel, so that I would never, ever see the shameful fate predicted by the awful prophecy come to light. But soon, I did come across the crossroads where you say Laius died, and here is the truth. As I approached the place where 3 roads meet, a messenger and a man in a wagon, just as you described, came barreling toward me without any provocation, tried to run me off the road. So I lashed out in anger and managed to strike the driver as the wagon came racing my way, forcing me into a ditch. But when the older man saw that, he circled round and he struck me in the head with his spiked goad and left me in the dirt bleeding. I paid him back, though, with interest, and before he knew it hit him, I swatted him with a stick and sent him flying backwards out of the wagon. And I killed them all. So if this stranger was in fact Laius, what man alive could be more miserable than I, whom the gods loathe the most? From this day forward, no foreigner, no citizen may host me in his home or speak to me or even acknowledge my pitiful existence. I will be driven from the city like a scourge. Oh, I have cursed myself, and I have no one else to blame. I am contaminating the bed of a corpse which I strangled with these hands. I am tainted, polluted, profaned. I am filthy. I am a virus, a deadly infection spreading. I must be cast out of this country and never allowed to be laid eyes on my parents or return home to Corinth where I was raised, for I fear I may not be able to stop myself from marrying my mother and slaughtering my father, the man who brought me into this world. This savage cruelty can only have come from a merciless God. There is no other way to explain it. I call out to the heavens, to the holy ones seated on their thrones, never let me see that hateful day. I am begging you, but let me vanish from this earth before I see myself stained with such unspeakable actions.
Your words fill us with terror, my lord. But wait until you've heard from the man who was there before abandoning hope.
The shepherd is my only hope. I must wait until he comes.
What do you expect him to say when he arrives?
If he repeats what you told me, then I will be safe.
What did you hear me say that was so consequential?
You said that he spoke of highwaymen killing Laius. So if he corroborates that story and sticks to that number, then I could not have been the killer, for one is different than many. But if he speaks of a single man, of a lone murderer, then clearly the story does point to me.
Well, that was what he said, and he cannot take it back. For I was not alone in hearing him say it, the whole city did. But even if he should change his story in some small way, it will not change anything. For Apollo's prophecy stated that Laius would be slaughtered by my son. But my poor baby didn't kill anyone. He met his death long before Laius. After that day when he was sent away to die on the side of the mountain, I never gave much thought to prophecies, and neither should you.
That is all very reasonable, my lady, and well-spoken. But someone please go get the shepherd before I lose my patience.
I will send for him right away, my lord. But while we wait, let's go inside for a while. I hope you know I would never do anything to upset you, and only wish to see you happy.
End of scene 1. So for scene 2, which is much shorter, here's all you need to know. A messenger has arrived from Corinth with news that Oedipus's father, Polybus, the king of Corinth, has died. So as soon as Jocasta hears this news, she calls Oedipus out of the house so he can hear it from the messenger himself.
Dearest Jocasta, why have you called for me to come out of the house?
Listen to what this man has to say and consider how it pertains to the gods' holy prophecies.
Who is he and what does he have to say?
He has come from Corinth to relay the news that Polybus no longer walks among the living. Your father is dead, Oedipus.
What did you come here to say, stranger? Tell me yourself, in your own words.
Let me start with this. In no uncertain terms, Polybus is dead and gone.
Did he die by treachery or from natural causes?
He died peacefully in his sleep, for it doesn't take much to knock an elderly man off balance.
Then he must have succumbed to an illness?
Yes, that and old age.
Oh, why, my lady, should we ever again listen to the Pythian priestess at Delphi, or studying the patterns of eagles or kingfishers shrieking high above us in the sky when they foretold that I would one day kill my father? He is now dead in the ground, and I am still here in Thebes. All these years, I've never touched a weapon in his presence. The only way I might have hastened his death was through my absence. Perhaps he died of heartache from missing his son, but Polybus is no more than a shade now in Hades. And with him he has taken the prophecies that once hung over my head, all meaningless now.
Did I not predict this long ago?
Ooh, yes, you did, but I was too afraid to listen.
Then you must banish all fear from your heart.
I still have one thing left to fear, sleeping with my mother.
Why should a man be ruled by fear when his life is ruled by chance? Nothing can be foreseen because everything is unfolding in the present, moment to moment, where it's best for men to live. Do not worry about making love to your mother. Many men have done so in their dreams. But the man for whom such things mean nothing is better off than most.
All that you have said is well and good, but my mother does still live. And as long as she does, even if I am wrong, I fear her bed, no matter what you say.
Don't you see your father's death as a blessing?
Yes, and I see my mother's life as a curse.
Who is this woman that fills you with fear?
Merope, the widow of Polybus. Not that it's any of your business, old man.
And what about her makes you so afraid?
A horrifying oracle sent by the gods.
Can it be spoken, or are others not allowed to know?
Apollo said that it would be my fate to lie with my mother and slaughter my father, defiling them both with these hands. And this is why, for all these years, I have lived so far away from Corinth. I suppose I've been lucky, though it's been hard to live without the comfort of seeing my parents.
Was this really the fear that sent you here?
Yes, the fear of murdering my father.
Then my words spoken in friendship should have released you from the very thing you feared the most.
Yes, and you will be rewarded accordingly.
I came to bring you back to Corinth for the coronation, Only then will I be rewarded.
Oh, I will never go back to the city in which my parents live.
It is clear, son, that you have no idea what you're doing.
By the gods, tell me what you mean by that, old man.
If you are afraid to return to home because of them,
I'm afraid of Apollo's prophecy coming true.
that you will stain yourself by violating your parents?
Yes, old man, this is the fear which keeps me up at night.
Well, then you have nothing to fear,
I do, if they are my parents.
because you and Polybus were not related.
What? Why would you say that? Polybus was my father, wasn't he?
No more than I am.
How can you compare yourself to my father when you mean nothing to me?
He and I are equals in one way. Neither of us gave you life.
Then why did he call me his son?
I found you on the far side of a mountain.
Wait, let's go back.
I was tending my flocks.
No, go even further back. Wait, 109. Go to 109. Go to 109, old man.
You skip the page.
Oh, here we go.
Then why did he call me his son?
I'll tell you why. I delivered you to him with these hands as a gift, and he treated you like a son.
With your hands. But how could he have shown me such love and affection if I was not, in fact, his son?
He was childless. He loved you like the son he never had.
Did you find me or buy me before you brought me to him?
I found you on the far side of the mountain.
And what were you doing there?
I was tending my flocks as they grazed on the mountain,
So you were just a simple herdsman.
who just arrived in time to save you.
Was I crying out in distress when you lifted me into your arms?
Your ankles can answer that question.
Oh, why do you speak of that ancient disgrace?
Your ankles, they have been pierced. I unclamped them,
A shameful disfigurement that has scarred me since birth.
for which you were named.
Was it my mother or father who gave me my name? For God's sakes, tell me.
I do not know, but the man who handed you over to me certainly would.
So you did not discover me on your own, but obtained me from another.
Yes, a shepherd.
Do you know who he was, and can you tell me what he looked like?
I believe he served Laius.
The Laius who long ago ruled Thebes as a king?
Yes, that Laius. It was his shepherd.
If he is still alive, and would it be possible for me to meet him?
Is he here? The people of Thebes would know best.
Is there anyone here who knows of the shepherd in question? Have you seen him in the city or out in the fields? If you know, then speak, for now is the time, not later.
I believe he speaks of the man in the fields for whom you have already sent.
But ask Jocasta.
She will be able to say for sure.
Dear lady, is this, in fact, the same man, the one whom you sent for and the one of whom he speaks?
Just drop it. It's nonsense. There is no point in listening to this man or worrying about what he might have said.
I will never stop hunting for the truth of my birth now that I am on the trail.
By the gods, I implore you to stop if you have any regard for yourself or your life. Can't you see I am standing here sick with worry? That should be enough to stop you in your tracks.
Oh, and why should you be worried? Even if I am shown to be the son of a slave going back 3 generations, it will never taint your birth or the color of your blood.
Even so, I'm asking you to do as I say. Be done with this line of inquiry.
There is nothing that you could say that would stop me from uncovering the truth.
That is because you're not listening to what I'm trying to say. I'm only thinking of your best interests.
I have been listening to you for far too long. Your words are starting to grave on my nerves.
Ill-fated boy. May you never discover who you really are.
You go find that shepherd and bring him here now. And leave her to worry about the fate of her family's name.
Wretched! You are wretched! That is your name! And all I will ever say to you again.
Before getting started, I wish to ask you first, Corinthian stranger, is this the man you described?
Yes, this is the man.
Look me in the eye, old man, and answer all of my questions. Were you one of Laius's men?
That's right. I was a slave, though not obtained on the market. I was born and raised inside the palace.
What was your trade?
For most of my life, I've tended flocks.
Where do you most often take your flocks to graze?
Mount Kithaeron and the valleys around it.
Have you met this man before? Do you know him from there?
Which man, and how would I have met him?
This man right here. Have you ever been in contact with him? Or has he ever crossed your path?
Not that I can recall, but when you get to be my age, it's hard to remember the face of every man you've met.
It's not surprising, given his years, that he can place me. But I will now jog his memory with a clear reminder of our shared history and how for 3 seasons, spring, summer, and fall, for 3 years, we watched our flocks as they grazed upon Mount Kithaeron. He had one, and I too. Then, when winter finally arrived, I would herd mine back into their little sheds to wait out the weather, and he would take his back to the stables of Laius. Does any of this ring a bell? Is what I'm saying true?
Yes, it's true, though it all took place so long ago.
Now tell me, do you remember once giving me a newborn child so I could raise him myself as if he were my own?
What? Why on earth would you ask me that question?
Because, my friend, this man, who you are now looking at, was once that child.
You shut your mouth before I shut it for you!
Easy there, old man. Do not threaten him. You are the one who should be threatened.
For doing what, my noble master?
For withholding information about the child in question.
What child? He has no idea what he is saying. He's stirring up trouble and wasting your time.
If you will not speak willfully, then we have ways of making you speak against your will.
In the name of the gods, please do not torture me, sir. I'm just an old man.
You bend back his arms until they snap?
No, God, no. Why? What do you want to know?
The child. Did you give it to this man?
I did. I wish I had died that day.
You will die right now if you don't tell everything to us.
Better to die than to speak.
This man is stalling. Show him we are serious.
No. I've already told you. I gave him the child.
Where did you get it? Was it yours or given to you by another?
It wasn't mine. It was given to me by someone else.
Did it come from someone amongst us? In whose house was it born?
Please, my lord, I'm begging you, stop asking me these
Don't
questions.
make me ask you again or you will be dead.
It came from this house.
From a slave or someone from the royal family?
The moment has finally arrived when I must say the words, no matter how dreadful.
When I must hear what you must say?
It was Leia's child. Or so people said. Your wife could tell you more.
Did she give it to you?
Yes, Lord.
Why?
So I could dispose of it.
Was she its mother?
She was scared of evil prophecies.
Which said?
The child would grow up to murder its parents.
What made you give it to this man?
I could not help feeling sorry for the child, and I believed that this man would take it to a distant land far away from here. But if you are who he says you are, know that you were born to suffer more than any man ever before or after.
Oh, all has been revealed. Oh, it is clear as the sunlight now shining in my eyes for the last time. I am stained by birth, by marriage, and by the blood of the man that I murdered.
Most honorable men of Thebes, what horrifying things will you soon see and hear? What loud sounds of mourning will come bellowing up from your throats if you have any reverence left for the house of Laius? For all the waters of Isser and Phasis could not wash away the atrocities within the palace walls, which will soon be revealed. In the light of day, horrors both intended and unintentional. The wounds that cut the deepest, causing the greatest pain, are always self-inflicted.
The things we already know are nothing short of monstrous.
What more can we say that will add to our grief?
First this, Jocasta, our noble queen, is dead.
Unlucky woman. What was the cause?
She died by her own hand. Since you were not there to see it, you have already been sheltered from the worst of what happened. But you will now hear how the poor lady suffered, as many grim details as I can remember. She came barreling through the palace in a wild fury, ran into her room, slamming the doors, hurling herself upon her marriage bed, invoking the name of Laius, dead for decades, as she remembered how she bore him a boy who slaughtered his father, made love to his mother, and spawned such hideous children that men averted their eyes. She wept and wept over the bridal bed on which she once given life to double offspring, husband from husband, son from son. We did not see her die, or how her agony came to an end as Oedipus burst through the doors, shouting for someone to bring him a sword. All we could do was watch as he paced the floor, asking where he might find his wife, the woman who delivered him and his children. And it must have been a god who showed him where to find her. In his frenzy, since none of us dared to move, as if guided by an unseen hand, he charged straight for the bedroom, threw open the doors, ripping them off at the hinges, and when he saw what was waiting for him inside, he let out a sound so chilling it sent shivers down my spine. It was then that we saw her, dangling from a rope, a noose tied tightly around her throat. When he saw her, he howled with despair while loosening the knot from which she'd hung. Then, after her poor corpse fell to the floor, we saw the most disturbing sight of all. He pried out the pins that held up her gown and raised them high in the air, looking skyward, before plunging them deep into his eyes, crying,
"Never again will you see the horrors I must suffer or the evil I have done. I condemn you to darkness, for you saw things that you should not have seen and failed to see what was right in front of you all of this time."
And repeating these words, he stabbed at his eyes again and again and again with the golden pins until the black blood gushed down the sides of his face in thick, viscous rivers of gore, which erupted from his hollow sockets and sprayed out in all directions like a rainstorm. These horrors did not just rip through the life of a single individual. They obliterated both man and woman in the same instant. It is true they were once happy, but all they know this day is loss, grief, shame, death, and destruction, and any other affliction that can be imagined.
And does wretched Oedipus find any relief from the pain?
He is shouting inside, uttering unholy words.
"Throw open the doors so the people of Thebes can finally see the man who murdered my father and inseminated my mother."
He does not wish to remain in the palace, hounded by his own curse, but plans to expel himself from Thebes forever. That is, if he can somehow find the strength to prop up his body and stumble out of the city, for he is overwhelmed by his self-affliction, too weak to walk, and must be led around by a guide. But he will soon show you himself, as the doors are now opening to expose a sight so heartbreaking and pathetic that even those of you who hate him will be moved to tears.
Oh God, where am I going? Where am I being led by this endless misery? Does anyone hear my voice? Is it lost in the wind? Oh, how far I have fallen.
To a dreadful place, far beyond the reach of our ears and eyes.
I am shrouded in darkness. Black thunderclouds swirling round my head, descending in a dark vortex that sucks out all the light, plunging me into the gloom of eternal night. Oh God, it stings. It stings, the place where the pins went in, reminding me of why I gouged out my eyes.
What torture it must be to feel such grief and sorrow with every wave of pain.
Oh, my friend, you are still here. You alone have stayed behind to stand beside a blind man, though I cannot see your face. I know you are there by the sound of your voice.
You have done something terrible.
Where did you find the strength to cut yourself off from the light, ripping out your eyes? What vicious god took hold of you and forced your hands to do it?
Apollo, my friends, Apollo is the source of my suffering, but I acted alone when I sliced open my eyes, for why should they have remained within my face when all I could see was sadness and grief and nothing that brought me pleasure or joy?
It was just as you said.
What would I have seen? Or who would I have spoken to? What is left in this world for me to love? Take me away from this land as far as you can. I am lost, cursed. No man is more hated by the gods than Oedipus.
People of Thebes, witness the disaster that has leveled King Oedipus, who answered the riddle and rose to great power whose fortune was the envy of all of us.
Call no man happy until he crosses the threshold of death.
Free of pain at last.
That's the end of our dramatic presentation for this evening. Thank you very much for your attention. Go ahead and come on up. Go ahead. You're going to be in the middle right here. Thank you. So as our actors are finding their place in the audience, I want to thank them again for their committed performances. Again, minimal rehearsal, but maximum commitment tonight. And as they're taking their seats in the audience because they want to hear what you have to say, we're bringing up our three community panelists who are going to respond from their hearts and their guts to what they heard and they saw in the text and the performance tonight that resonated with them, that touched them, that spoke to them across time. As they're coming to their seats, I just want to plant the first seed of the first question I'm going to ask you as an audience as soon as they're done with their brief opening remarks and we hear from our panelists on Zoom. Here's the question we've asked about 10 other audiences since we started performing the Oedipus Project in May of 2020. I wanted to note that if the dating of this play is correct, then it was performed just after a plague, the Athenian plague, that reportedly killed at least 1/3 of the population of citizens in Athens. That would be roughly the same number of people sitting in the amphitheater that watched the play, 17,000 to 20,000 people. So there's no one in the audience who would have been a stranger to the themes at the center of the archaic Bronze Age city of Thebes that was being portrayed in the play, just like there's no one in this audience, having lived through COVID, that is a stranger to these themes as well. So I wanted to note that at the beginning of our conversation. But here's the question I want you to think about as an audience, both on Zoom and all around the world, and those here at Gaston Hall. Now that you've seen these actors going for broke, trying to make sense of this more than 2,500-year-old play with minimal rehearsal here at Gaston Hall this afternoon, this evening, and you know the play was written thousands of years ago and performed in Athens for thousands of citizen soldiers in a century in which they saw nearly 80 years of war, in a century in which a plague killed 1/3 of the population, in a century in which medicine was formalized and born in the Western world, and a century in which the experiment of democracy rose alongside Greek tragedy and ultimately failed. In spite of the distance of culture and time, what spoke to you tonight as you listened to these intrepid performers and public servants reading the words of Sophocles tonight? What touched you? What resonated with you? What was true? And we'll return to that question in a few seconds. Before we do, I'm going to turn things over to our panelists. And I said whoever's making the best eye contact goes first. And I'm so glad our student, Megan, who has amazing manners, has volunteered herself. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and launching directly into your comments. Over to you, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Megan Liu. I'm an undergrad sophomore here at Georgetown studying environment and sustainability. And I guess in terms of kind of one point that really stood out to me, and I'm sure stood out to a lot of people, was kind of Oedipus's initial conversation with Tiresias and kind of the way in which he immediately kind of goes from considering Tiresias to be a savior and kind of the only hope for our survival, and into kind of calling him the vilest of the vile and immediately rejecting anything he says after he's kind of faced with information that Oedipus didn't want to hear and that kind of threatens his way of being and living. And I felt like that was just so reflective of what we're seeing with like climate denial, and the way in which a lot of people are just kind of rejecting and dismissing climate experts and scientists and just scientific fact, because I mean the reality of the climate crisis is that we do need kind of this fundamental shift in our ways of being and the values underlying our systems. And then another aspect that I just kind of kept thinking about was the role of the people of Thebes kind of throughout the play and the way in which they almost, I felt like, served as a kind of collective force that kind of continued to pressure Oedipus and kind of keep him in check, and also just hold him accountable. And I've had a lot of discussions in my classes where we talk about theories of change when it comes to the climate crisis. And a lot of those pathways start with collective action. And kind of they highlight the need for people to come together and kind of pressure elites and leaders and corporations and culprits of the climate crisis to change or leave. And that just kind of made me think of, the very beginning of the scenes today started with the people going up to Oedipus and saying, hey, there's this injustice happening, people are dying, there's a real crisis going on, and you need to fix that. And I thought that was just something that was really powerful and important to hold on to when kind of considering the importance of the people and kind of collective action in forcing change.
Thank you so much, Megan, for being first. I really appreciate it. It's great to hear from a student first. Michaela, our alumna, do you mind going second?
Not at all. My name is Michaela Harrison. I'm a graduate of the School of Foreign Service, class of 1992, and I currently sing with whales. Yes, whales. I think the line that stood out the most for me, because it's something that's kind of been running through my mind in general of late, what is wrong with you wretched men? It's like, if all the wretched men would just sit down. And this question of the arrogance of power and then the fall from grace. And just obviously so much in this, so resonant to everything that's happening right now and all that we've seen in recent years. On the one hand, the arrogance of the powerful one, and then the confidence, the quiet confidence of the truth teller. And, that the blind man the truth is strong enough to protect me. And that really resonated a lot for me as we have so many people in this time who are close to the powerful ones, but are so afraid to tell the truth, are so afraid to stand on truth and trust in the power of truth-telling. And then I was really, as an animal whisperer, I was really drawn in by the reference to reading the signs of nature and being connected to the way that nature speaks and the way that nature tells us the things that are to come if we are paying attention to it, and how that's dismissed by those in power and ends up being so resonant and relevant. And then obviously this whole idea of a plague as we're, in the wake of the devastation of COVID, and inside its lingering effects, this quest for healing feels like a really important place to focus our attention in the depths of what lies beneath the surface cacophony between those who are not interested in truth and those who are affected by the results of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Megan.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Megan Lickley. I'm a faculty member at Georgetown in the Earth Commons in the School of Foreign Service and a climate scientist. And there's so many things that stood out to me. You can be married to somebody for so long and still not know them. I kept going back and forth between seeing this whole production as a really complicated conspiracy theory, like God has imbued the truth into a blind prophet who's saying that this plague is because of something one person did. And we kind of, I believe that, but at the same time, you also start, at what point should you be actually questioning whether that's true? Is the plague really because of this? I don't know, what Oedipus was doing. I did find it somewhat satisfying at the end that Oedipus finally sees the truth and is willing to accept it, and I think there's some part of me that keeps thinking that's going to happen in the global arena or on the national stage here. And I think that's maybe just Greek tragedies have this way of being satisfying that way, and not necessarily how life turns out. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Megan. I appreciate it. As I mentioned before, our fourth panelist is in New Orleans, and we're going to turn things over to him. Nathaniel, over to you.
Hello. Yes. Hi. Sorry, I'm getting an echo, so I'm going to mute this a bit. My name is Nathaniel Rich. I'm a novelist, essayist. I'm so sorry not to be able to be there tonight, but it's a privilege to be part of this, and thank you, Brian, for inviting me. I was in my office at Tulane. I teach in the environmental studies program here. And in the middle of the second act, I think, at the height of the drama, there was a fire alarm went off, which felt kind of appropriate, and I had to evacuate. So I'm in a classroom now, which maybe is also appropriate, I don't know. But yeah, I wrote a book called Losing Earth, which is a history of essentially political failure on climate change. And what struck me watching this performance from a kind of thinking in a climate perspective was the desperation that the characters have to find someone to blame. I mean, you see it at the very beginning. The townspeople are finding someone to solve their problems and someone to blame. Townspeople desperate for the king. Oedipus emerges on the scene. He's calling for the gods. He calls for Tiresias. No answers that he gets satisfy him. And finally, we're thrust into this the tragedy. And the line that really stood out to me is, I've cursed myself and have no one else to blame. And that it's not just that he's done an awful thing. He's done awful things, but there's a kind of deeper bitterness that he can't pass it off on somebody else. And so that made me think about in terms of climate change is, with climate change, we have a lot of people to blame, right? We know who to blame. We have oil and gas industry executives going back for generations. We have a political party that's been completely taken over by denialism. That's easy in a way. And then perhaps those people are the ones who should be brought to the public square and have their hands bound behind them and all of that. And I'm sure that day may come. But that doesn't fully answer this sort of sickening thing that's at the heart of climate change, which is that, particularly living in this country, being so enmeshed into a carbon economy as we are, that we can't escape it. We can't escape being part of the problem, no matter how virtuous we are, no matter how we vote, no matter how we give ourselves. And so there's a kind of sickening feeling that I feel as someone who's anxious about these subjects, just, going about one's ordinary life, understanding the enormous carbon footprint that our society has, even for those of us who try to be a vegetarian and try not to fly too often, et cetera. And there's no outlet for that. There's no outlet for that. That exists even after we blame the people we know should be blamed, and after those people are punished. There's still this sense of feeling like our hands are dirty in some way. And that's an uneasy feeling, and I felt that kind of sickening feeling coming through in this work, very, very movingly. And you know, and there's no answer to it exactly in the play, and often I feel like there's not an answer to it in real life, and that's part of the tragedy, I think, of the place that we're in.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I want to give my thanks to these four panelists for getting us started, for their candor, their courage, for being first, having a student lead the way. And just say that I'm going to turn my back to you, but not out of disrespect, and you have the live mics, so like the voice of God, you can come back into the conversation whenever you feel so moved, and I hope you will. But now I'm going to turn out here and try to, with the fleeting time we have left, try to move the energy around and hear from some folks out in the audience and on Zoom, and just return to the question. I really appreciated all the things that were said, but I have Nathaniel's words still in my ears that part of the net result of watching a Greek tragedy about someone who learns that he has only himself to blame sometimes is a consciousness that the pollution is on all of our hands and always was, or the blood is on our hands and always was, and that we spend a lot of time in denial about our own complicit relationship. And that can be a very, that can be a very sad and a space full of despair, and yet here we are doing that together as a community, not in isolation, not in our cars, not in our closets, not in our dorm rooms. We're acknowledging that this is one result of what's elicited by the play. But I'd like to hear others as well, so I'll return to the question I said a second ago was, in spite of the distance of culture and time, what spoke to you across time, what touched you? I see a hand over here. What was true?
I'll be quick. A new thing that came to me watching this reading was that through all the towering arrogance and the threats and the denial and the power wielding of this king, his relentless pursuit of the truth, even when it's growing in him that, oh, it's him, he is what he seeks. I am moved by that. I am moved by his refusal to drop it and to see it through to the end. And I take some kind of cheer from that, I mean, that's the thing we can't lose, is the pursuit of truth, the regard for truth, even if it crucifies us. That was just such an unexpected discovery for me that I was moved by that.
I appreciate you being first. I see some hands. I don't know where the mic runners are. Oh, there are mic. So maybe go over to this person here since you're close in the stripes here. Yeah, and I'll come over there. I saw your hands over there. Go right ahead. Yeah.
Hi, I'm an undergraduate sophomore at the School of Foreign Service as well, so representing two of the panelists as well. And one of the things that struck me about the play and what I was thinking about was AI and the cost of data centers on the environment, and kind of how when you posit that argument, there is this instant climate denial that comes up where they say that AI and its goodwill will outweigh that. And I saw a lot of that come up with like the dialogue and Oedipus's character and things like that. And so I'm just curious to the panelists, I don't know if they can answer this, but like, what do you guys think is the way for us to kind of push back on climate denial? Because it's so eye-catching, it's so easy for the media to sell that, right? And it's why the right wing in America, it's so easy for them to sell it to the public. And so how can we push back on it, especially on the issue of AI and tech centers?
You don't have to answer, but you can. You can also reframe the question and let it float out here in the audience. It's up to you. That's also an answer. Someone had a hand over there.
I was going to reframe, change the question completely and just say, does he only have himself to blame? And maybe this is kind of related.
Yeah.
I mean, his mother bound his feet and tried to kill him.
That's true. That's true. And we can let that question about data centers and climate denialism float, because what I like about it is that data centers and AI is being cast in the role of, savior, similar to Oedipus, but it may end up being the very pollution if we're not careful. And so there is that. But I appreciate what you said. This is a play that's also about early childhood trauma. Oedipus's name means no foot. In his foot, the body keeps the score. He already knows that he's not who people says he is. And eventually he learns what his body already knew. And that's what his name, Oedipus, means. I know foot. I have seen foot. That's the Greek. So, yeah, is he the only person to blame? And when we did this in a prison, early days, all of the men that we performed for, they wanted to talk about the sins of the father and intergenerational curses and what's been passed down to Oedipus from above. So anyway, thank you. I'm just trying to weave some of these things here, and we'll go over there in just a sec. Yeah, go right ahead.
So it made me think about the idea of a riddle, and we're sort of living through an intractable riddle right now where we know, according to climate scientists, we need to be decarbonizing at a rate of 10% per year immediately. But the solutions we're being told, EVs, electrification, materially rely on things that we don't have. Just doing this in the US would require 4 times the global supply of rare earth minerals. This is why we have very extractive dealings with Ukraine. Reconstruction funding in Ukraine is contingent on the country giving vast minerals to the US. Zambia is being withheld HIV funding for its rare earth minerals. And so if these solutions we're being told are not globally material solutions, then how can we decarbonize and make these transitions globally? Because again, the US is only 4% of the world population. If we need 4 times the materials here, it doesn't work out. There is an answer to that question, but it's a riddle.
Thank you for posing it. I appreciate it. I see some hands over here, and maybe our mic runner on that side sees a hand over there. So, yes. Up here, great. We don't want to deny the balcony. Yeah, go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for a lovely production and translation of this amazing play. I think the line that stuck with me the most was, "I am the most hated man by the gods." Often the point of tragedy is the inevitability of it. I think it was Samuel Beckett who said the only sin is the sin of being born. And Oedipus is helpless to his circumstances. What happens to him is completely out of his control. It's out of his intention. And sometimes I think as a young person, forgive my hyperbole, it seems that we've inherited a dying earth, and an earth that comes with systems that prevent us from being able to save her. So I think his despair at the end of how everything is out of his control, and it was just the way his life was written by the gods for no sin other than the sin of his existence, really stuck with me.
Thank you so much for that interpretation. I really appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. And there's a hand right there. Yeah.
This is in a complete different direction than the way conversation's been going, so sorry about
Great.
that.
No,
but
please, bring it on.
I was struck by the casting of this particular crew of people, especially in the role of Dr. Fauci, a scientist, and both the man himself as Tiresias the prophet. To speak more generally, him as a scientist, scientists for decades, centuries have been raising the alarm on climate change to the denial of those in power, as our panelists already touched on. But more specifically, and it makes the metaphor even more poignant, Dr. Fauci himself spoke about the cause of a plague to arguably king, and I was really struck by the only word that's coming to mind is the poignancy in that casting and the value that we can gain from sort of knowing who was speaking with Tiresias's voice and what extra meaning we can gain from that, because scientists are the seers. They are the ones who present the truth that they find in the world, and how far can that truth really go if no one will listen?
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just want to say how grateful I am that Dr. Fauci said yes to my invitation to play Tiresias. He like me, was a classics major and studied Greek, so I think he knew what he was being asked. But I was struck listening tonight to the first lines, "Oh, how terrible it is to know when in the end knowing gains you nothing. I knew this once, but must have forgotten, otherwise I never would have come." I mean, connecting with what was said up here, there is a despair in that. I imagine for young people to know and come to consciousness of the dying world that you bring into the room, and maybe have the overwhelming sense that knowing gains you nothing. I also just want to, and I know I want to give the mic to other people, but I want to acknowledge that I would contend that there's a difference between what happens in a Greek tragedy on stage and what it provokes in the audience, as evidenced by this conversation and the spiritedness of it. Greek plays depict people learning too late. That's how I would define Greek tragedy. Usually milliseconds too late, and in those milliseconds they destroy themselves and generations to come. But I don't know, there's something in the watching characters learn, maybe milliseconds too late or too late in general, that I have noticed over the last 20 years of doing this work that provokes a sort of consciousness in the audience of the stakes of how hard it is to change before it's too late, but never giving up on the fleeting possibility that we might be able to do it. And I just wanted to hold those two things in the space, the difference between what's on stage, which is tragic, and our living, breathing reality, which has the possibility of coming to consciousness of the forces at work upon us, God's luck, fate, chance, governments, the weather, and seeing that window collectively and individually to make a change. There's a hand for a long time over here.
So what struck me the most was the chaos in the palace, all of the corruption that they didn't even realize was going on, just this terribleness that was actually affecting all of the other people in Thebes, and how today we still in the climate movement, and I consider myself a long time in the climate movement, are still trying to do the same thing. We're talking about, well, how are we going to change climate deniers, and how are we going to save the polar bears, or how are we going to recover the Clean Water Act or whatever, when the palace is running over everything. I have Jamie Raskin and Van Hollen as my representatives, and they are telling me, we can't do anything. You can't do anything for climate, for so on. And so I have been asking all of the environmental groups that I have worked with, that I've supported and whatever, please stop with the old way. Stop sending me stuff about the Clean Air Act is, they're selling the whatever. We have to make sure that the next election puts us on the road to changing the people in the palace. We can't keep sending email after email saying, now you've got to call your representative and tell them to get in the way of this terrible other climate thing that's going on, because nobody's listening until we change the regime. That's what's frustrating me, and I wish people would just gather all together from the climate movement, from the immigration, advocacy, from all together, and just make sure that this regime comes forward, because our representatives are saying nothing's going to change until we change that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of that. Thank you. I want to acknowledge that we have folks from all over the planet joining us. And BJ on Zoom, you're first in line. We'd love to hear from you. What resonated with you tonight? What touched you? What was true? BJ.
Hi there. Thank you for this magnificent honor of addressing so many people and having been so addressed. Something that strikes me is the personal slight against Tiresias leveled in an attempt to silence him. I think Tiresias prevails because he has knowledge of truth and the fire of truth. In reality, it takes many, many different things, I think, to be able to overcome the personal insults that people will level at you, not just your enemies, but also people you are trying to serve. There's a tremendous pain in being rejected and insulted and lambasted by those you are trying to serve. And I am curious, what is the worst thing that anyone has ever said to you? I'm of course imagining the things that Dr. Fauci must have endured. What is the worst thing that perhaps someone close to you has ever said to make you shut up? I'll stop there.
Thank you, BJ. Thank you. Appreciate that. I think we have 700 people who could collectively answer that question, but we're gonna let them hold it, and maybe someone will answer it at some point as the conversation. But I appreciate you defending the Tiresiases of the world, the truth tellers, Dr. Fauci and scientists and others. Jonathan, you're next in line.
Not for nothing, he's a genderqueer.
Thank you for bringing that into the room too. Thank you, BJ. Jonathan, over to you.
Thank you so much, and great to be with you again. So a couple of things leapt out at me. The self-inflicted wounds are the worst. And we've talked, of course, about the climate crisis, environmental degradation, war, biodiversity loss, the pandemic, and all these things are connected. And that also takes me to the other line, creons. What we seek, we will find. What we ignore will evade our eyes. And we've had a lot of debate about where did our pandemic come from? Was it a wet market? Was it a lab in Wuhan? But the real questions looking forward to the next pandemic, which is inevitable, are how we have contributed to it through degradation of the environment, the rainforests and the like. So I feel deeply moved that we have to start looking in the places that we haven't been looking before, because that's what will save us from ourselves.
Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate you joining us too. It's great hearing from you and great seeing you again 1 week later. Just trying to see who's next so we can get through this group. My apologies, this very high-tech system of being texted by my colleague Marjolaine in the back. Kristen, you're next in the order. What resonated with you? What touched you tonight? What was true?
Yeah, no, so much. And I've taught this play, I'll reveal that, although I'm a Shakespeare scholar more than a classical scholar, but a connection that resonates between these two plays is how the women characters aren't listened to. We talk a lot about how Tiresias is ignored, and he certainly is, but Jocasta is equally dismissed. And she sees an off-ramp for this. She figures it out as quickly and maybe even a little bit before I think Oedipus does. That's the new thing for me that I hadn't noticed. But this performance really struck me. And thank you for that, because her line, her emotional frustration with Oedipus really stood out to me. And the line that stuck out to me the most is, I actually typed it out as I was listening. Let me find it, I'm sorry. I'm standing here sick with worry. That should be enough to stop you. She wants to take him into a private place and reveal everything, but he wants to grandstand his truth. And you know, we, someone else in the audience, I think, spoke to that as something that we admire. But, you know, why does he want truth in such a performative way? He's got the opportunity to have it, but that's not what he's looking for. She is not listened to in the same way Tiresias isn't listened to. You know, if the god wants to say something, he'll make it known, he says, but she wants to make it known, and she implores him to listen to her. And that's the off-ramp for this whole thing. You can't undo the horror that's happened, but you could avoid the horror that is about to come. She sees it all unfolding, and he won't listen. And that has always landed with me, but it landed with me much more forcefully in this context.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Kristen. I want to acknowledge that as BJ was getting off, BJ referred to Tiresias as genderqueer, and I said, thank you for bringing that into the room. That's because Tiresias became a woman in order to gain the sight of prophecy and is sort of a genderless or genderqueer being. And I appreciate that as a segue into Jocasta's perspective, because there aren't a lot of women in this play that in this instance, she had something really important to bring that could have at least averted the violence that took place, including her own death, if Oedipus had listened to her when she had that to offer. And I appreciate your interpretation is slightly different than the other one that came up, but we can hold those interpretations because we're all entitled to our interpretations of the play. We may not agree, but we can agree to hear each other's interpretations. That his, in your mind, and I hear it, the last scenes of the play, and we don't even perform the last final scene of the play, are kind of performative, heroic suffering on behalf of the city that maybe was unnecessary. And certainly avoidable, and whether it actually has merit in the end, the violence, remains to be seen. One last person from Zoom, I believe. I'm looking here, either Luke or RJ, depending on whether is it Luke. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yes. Hi. I was speaking of women. I was struck by thinking about Antigone, which I was recently in a production of Antigone an adaptation of Antigone written by Anne Carson, and thinking about how both Oedipus and Creon resembled at times authoritarianism and fighting specifically like against the gods. Like they were both trying to seek an answer that was not necessarily what the gods told them or other, Creon by defying the gods' laws of what must be done with a dead body. And to relate that back to climate, how signs of God, signs of nature telling us what to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Luke, for being with us. And forgive me, it was RJ, not BJ, and I have my colleague again texting me in the back to thank for that correction. We have a fleeting, 20 minutes left, and I appreciate the actors actually caught us up, believe it or not, and that's why I said about Jesse Eisenberg, he'll shave at least 15 minutes off the running time. But I want to just ask a question, perturb the audience, and move it in a different direction. You can always ignore my questions. You can say what you related to. You can assimilate all your answers into one perfect statement. You can ask your own questions. I don't care, but I just want to move us in a different direction. So in the play, there's one interpretation of the play that sticks with me. It's kind of the overdetermined Freudian one. This is a play about the seemingly limitless capacity that humans have for denial. A denial of what's right in front of them, denial of what's already apparent to them, maybe irrationally, but they haven't yet figured out rationally. So when thinking about the climate crisis, I think about Jocasta's lines when she says, "Pay no attention to prophecies." And why should a man be ruled by fear when his life is ruled by chance? Nothing can be foreseen because everything is unfolding in the present, moment to moment, where it's best for men to live. So I guess my question is, as you were listening to this reading tonight, how did those lines sit with you? Pay no attention to prophecies, given presumably the scientific prophecies that are kind of resonating with the moment that we're putting forth, and the various types of denial you saw play out in the play and on stage. And I'm coming over to you. There's a hand right here, and I'll come over to you.
Jonathan Marks, I appreciate you saying Wuhan, because it was surreal sitting here listening to Dr. Fauci play this, the truth teller, when the truth about the lab origin or gain of function research has been suppressed. Dr. Collins is getting the Humanitarian Award from National Academy of Sciences, and the second speaker said we're still in the wake of COVID. There's a book called In the Wake of COVID by Frances Lee, the top political scientist, and she said the lack of trust that resulted in the gaslighting, saying that it didn't come from a lab, made it flip from 70% to 30% to 30%, 70% trusting. So the truth teller said we have to admit our mistakes sometimes, and in order to regain trust. And the Washington Post op-ed that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins wrote was a flu virus risk worth taking in the Washington Post in 2012. It really is not worth it, because we need the cures for future pandemics and bioweapons, and maybe mRNA is it, but the dangerous gain of function should be done by responsible laboratories, preferably government, not university or random laboratories, because the risk is really too great.
Thank you for bringing that into the room. I appreciate what you said. I think one of the things I hear you saying that's also really important is that when I think about the audience that was watching this play in the late 5th century BC after having experienced a plague, I do feel like we have a point of reference to understand the breakdown of the social contract, the breakdown of our sense of trust in each other, the breakdown of our belief in institutions, our faith in what we're told is true, and that complicates the climate movement, and it complicates our ability to fight on behalf of people who can't fight for themselves with regard to the next pandemic. And you've complicated the conversation. By casting Dr. Fauci as Tiresias, I hope it's clear that I wasn't, because I take full responsibility, saying that Tiresias is Dr. Fauci or Dr. Fauci is Tiresias. Although I appreciate he wore the sunglasses, which I asked him to do. But to say that it's hard to be the person who's bearing the information that people don't trust or want to understand or hear, and one of the challenges, I think, of scientific prophecy, as you point out, is its complexity. And so if the people in mainstream America can only hear clear, simple narratives that don't account for the scientific method itself and don't account for, and we've lost a good deal of our fact-based institutions in terms of journalism and reporting, how are we going to make our way out of this mess? If our hold on what is truth has been so shaken. And I appreciate all the things you brought into the room, the books you referenced, but I think the most important thing for me is the social contract is still frayed, and we have not, just like the audience that was watching this play 2,500 years ago, we have not emerged from the pandemic fully yet. And so I appreciate how you've complicated the conversation. There was a hand over here. Yeah. Great.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi.
Go up there next. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, so you proposed a question about prophecy.
Yes,
and it evoked for me feelings of inevitability. And I feel like Greek tragedies, often you feel like the ending is inevitable. And I feel like what we are experiencing in life, it feels like we're watching a movie that we already know the ending to, where the oceans are dry and we can't do anything about it. To kind of counter that, though, I think that because we feel that inevitability, we feel frozen, and that is kind of how we all feel this like inability to act. And what I think actually moves people is hope. And I think back to images of like Barack Obama winning in 2008. For me, that was a moment where I felt immense hope. And I also am looking around the world and seeing like Hungary reject fascism in their recent election. And so for me, I take, I get up in the morning with the hope that we can do something, because if we don't believe that we can, we never will. And I think that that is something that's missing in politics today too, is that there's no hope. And that's, for the politicians in the room, that's something that I think that people want to buy in.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know we're going to go up here. There's a hand up here, but just to say, people often ask me, where's the hope in these tragic plays you perform all the time? Where's the hope? How do you do this 7 nights a week? Sometimes we do it quite often. And my answer is the hope isn't in the play. I mean, maybe we'll talk about that in a second, if there is hope in the play, but the hope is in the audience that comes together and sits for a long time with their devices off, shoulder to shoulder, acknowledging and bearing witness to what's true in the play and what's resonating with them as a community and what's hard to face about the play together. That's where I find hope. The fact that you're here, that you brought hope into the room, is where I find the hope in Greek tragedy. So thank you for bringing it into the room. Let's go up here.
Pay no attention to prophecy, pay attention to the now. Professor DeGroot last week at the Earth Commons Eco Talks reminded us that we're currently on representative pathway 8.5. This is what the IPCC determines as the worst case scenario for climate change, which includes the loss of half the human population. This is tragedy. This is the future we are hurling towards. So how can we have hope? Well, we focus on the now, because that is the beauty of anthropogenic climate change, is that we can stop it.
And the question then is how? And I believe the answer is we speak truth. And we listen to those who deny it. Because in their denial, this last election, over half of the people that voted elected Donald Trump in the general vote. They have a perspective, they have a position, and we must learn where they come from when we speak truth to them so they can listen to us, I believe. So when we see this plague, when we see the children not being able to be born, when we're reminded of the wildfires and the floods and the famine that we will face if we do not get our act together, if we do not listen to each other, I would implore everyone in this room to reach out to those who you disagree with, to listen to them, and then to speak to them on their level. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Thank you. The part of speaking truth is listening. I feel like so many institutions habituate speaking but not listening. It's inculcated in us. Legislating speech, one-way streams, standing on our positions. But if I hear you correctly, speaking truth requires listening to people who disagree with you, truly listening. I appreciate you bringing that into the room. Someone else has a hand up in the balcony, or is that the...
Hi.
I can't really see. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yes, I have the mic. I have my
Sorry.
hand up, so to speak. Thank you so much for organizing this and for leading this and for everybody for sharing their thoughts tonight. My notes are a little bit disjointed, but I will do my best. I think something that was left unanswered for me at the end of the play is the question of what next. You know, how do we deal with wrongdoing once we've discovered it and once we've acknowledged it? Oedipus claws his eyes out, Jocasta kills herself. Those are both very sort of like dramatic ways of dealing with that. But I think ultimately do not necessarily provide like a productive framework for, you know, those of us who do actually want to sort of like do something tangible about climate change within our lifetimes. I mean, for me, it's fundamentally a question about justice. It's a question about accountability, questions about care. And I do think that literature in many ways is an untapped resource when it comes to thinking about like models of imagining a better future. But I don't know, I found it to be a very cathartic play to watch because it dealt with so many of, you know, the messy, sickening feelings of climate change and experiencing climate change. But yeah, I at the end I was like, okay, so what now, I guess. And another thing that I grapple with sometimes is that I think the solutions to climate change might be very mundane, and it might be, you know, like about like civil engineers debating about how many centimeters or inches are we going to raise this roadway so that it's, you know, like going to be resilient to flooding, for example, and like that's can be deeply boring and deeply technical, but then how do we make that also accessible to people through literature, through art? I'm rambling now, but the last thing I wrote in my notes is that I think at the federal level, we do not have a lot of agency right now, but at the state and local level, we do have a lot of agency, and or you know, even like the neighborhood level, the hyper local level, your block in your neighborhood, for example. So that's also one place where I find hope in my everyday. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I see some hands back here. You want to go back there? We have another one back up here. We'll go here, and then we'll go back there, and then maybe we'll hear from one more or two people that will wrap it all up in a perfect, not on a bow, but we'll go back over here, yeah.
So quickly wanted to reflect on your comment before the show that the audience was the main character. And I think it's intriguing that this play has been performed for 2,000 years, and probably every audience knows what happens. This is a Greek tragedy, this is something we know, and yet we all show up. We all show up to learn something new. We know what's going to happen, we know how it ends, we know the story, but we still come. And I think there's hope in that as we sit here in Washington, D.C., and we know what's going to happen in the next legislative battle, in the next appropriations battle. But if you show up, sometimes you learn something new, and sometimes being there can change the experience.
Being there can change the experience. I appreciate that very much. Let's go over here. Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I wanted to just say that I thought there was a real irony in the question about not listening to prophecy. Because in this play, prophecy is sort of playing the role that science plays now, but prophecy is really about magic, you know, and seeing. And I think part of the distrust we have in science now with the public is partially the product of making it appear like magic. So that people expect instant answers and solutions and don't understand that science is a process. So that, for example, during the pandemic, people could not understand that the advice changed because the science changed.
Yeah.
We're always learning, things are always changing, and yet we have a large portion of our population that has been conditioned to expect easy answers and to want to go right to the answer and skip the process. So I think part of what we need to do is re-invoke people's curiosity about the world around them and understanding that it's a process and that there are no easy answers, there are no magic solutions, and that science is something that is continually evolving.
Thank you so much. I know your hand's been up for some time. You might pass me this card.
Hi, thank you. I'm Johnny. I'm a student here from Poland. I have a different take on fate and prophecy, because what really touched me was that fate is something you cannot change. It's something you have to accept. And as we saw in the play, and so as humans, we are changing our world. We're changing the environment. We're changing the shape of the land, of the mountains. We are impacting climate because we want to change it so much. And I think an important lesson for me from today is that actually accepting our natural world as it is, it might be a real strength. And we consider it a weakness so often. And maybe tomorrow, which is Earth Day, would be the right moment to reflect on that and maybe accept it and find strength in it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Patrick. I'm an undergraduate, and I'm pursuing theater, actually. So I was sort of curious and just pondering about this, right? How can we best reach the Oedipuses and the Atreises of this world, right? And I almost really wanted to ask you, how do you think theater as a medium compares to, you know, screaming into the void or social media for reaching those in power? Because so much of what people have said is communicating with the palace, right? Communicating with those so that we don't feel helpless. And just really, do you see theater as that several thousand-year-old best way to get to those in power? And how can we, as potentially some theater students here, for myself, do our best to affect change, whether we're facing prophecy or science? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Thank you for putting that in the room. I think there's a hand behind you, and I'd love to go back to that person in red. And while you're doing that, I'll just say very quickly, because I don't want this to become a Q&A about our I'm happy to talk to you afterwards, but just to say, you know, a few years ago, we performed at the Pentagon. We performed at Fort McNair for the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the combatant commandants, the highest ranking generals in the world and their spouses, and we talked about mental health. And the catalyst for that was ancient Greek theater. And that's how theater of war got its start. It was going to scale and getting into rooms where people of power could hear, not just from each other, but from the lowest ranking people in the room. So I appreciate a young student, speaking. I know that our work is working when some of the least powerful or most institutionally vulnerable people in the room are the ones who have the mic. So I'm grateful that you spoke and asked your question. And I think the answer is, one of the reasons we're leaning into this political theater of engaging people of power to perform is also to get them into the room with people that they can hear in the ways that they've been hearing from, but also the flip side is that people will listen to them as well in the ways that they did. So there's a lot to be said, but I'll just say briefly and end with, we as a culture have built a series of new mediums or media that are all one direction. They're streams that move in one direction. And what the ancient amphitheater, in Greek, amphitheater means the place where we see in both directions, amphitheatron. What the Greek amphitheater offers us is a different medium, a medium capacious enough to hold the complexity of the emotions as well as the ethics of our conversations about foreign policy and climate change and the impact of war. And so I don't think theater is the only medium, but I think we have a dearth of media that actually creates spaces where people who don't have the power can be heard. And so I'm grateful for you asking for the question, and I hope you continue on in your work with the lab. Someone has a mic, yeah, right there. And I know we've neglected some other people too, so we'll find who those people are, and we're going to end in just a couple of minutes. Go right ahead. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the time. Mine is more a thought, comment, connected to everything we spoke about tonight, and it's mainly on Jocasta's role. And as I graduated from Georgetown in May 2025, and I try to find my way of having an impact on the world, I was thinking of her role as a mother, a wife, a woman, and how she has her own sins of giving her child away for almost his own good. And I was looking at his own good, and for the prophecy, and how she her role switches, goes from trying to push for the truth to the moment of when she realizes kind of what the truth is, and how she doesn't try to completely stop from finding out the truth, but in some way almost stops towards that search of openly saying what the truth is. And I kind of related it with what we were saying of our generation trying to find ways to have an impact, and how there's a certain point where you kind of realize, or at least where my 23-year-old brain realized, I was like, can I actually make a difference? And is saying the truth openly and bluntly in front of the whole world, is it really gonna have an impact when the mistakes are done by others, me included, and everyone around me? I don't know, it was just a thought, and I adored it. I just wanted to share.
I appreciate that. I appreciate bringing Jocasta and her conflict into the room, because at a certain point she knows the truth but decides not to speak it. So what does it mean to know the truth? Tiresias says how terrible it is to know, and in the end it gains you nothing, but he then goes on to speak the truth. What does it mean to know the truth and then decide not to speak it? And I hear you saying generationally, maybe there's and then there's also, what does it mean to speak the truth to millions of people and see that it may not have an impact at all? I appreciate all those comments. I know we're at the end, so we're close to the end, so maybe there's someone who has something burning within them to say that hasn't been addressed. There's a couple hands here, so we'll go here, and then we'll go here, and you're gonna have our last word of the conversation, so please be ready to sum everything up perfectly. Yeah, go right ahead.
Pressure. I'd like to thank Dr. Fauci. I'd like to point out that all the while we watched this play out, wisdom was floating in the sky above, literally in the letters on the ceiling. If you look up, it says wisdom. And sometimes we just have to go out of our present moment and reflect, look around, and we might find wisdom that gives us deeper insights, other insights. Just because Oedipus became incredibly self-aware and self-destructive, but all along he wanted to murder everybody, all the people closest to him. He was wishing the worst upon humanity. It wasn't the final end. He is the one who suffered the most in the final end. And so I would like to welcome all of us to raise our consciousness, embrace what we know to be true, but not be stuck in the tragedy of climate change, and find ways to find that hope, find that peace, and move forward productively. Because I have to say, with 24 hours of DC Climate Week, I've heard incredible innovations that are taking place right now. We know in Europe there's funding and awareness to make change and to find new ways. And I think we need to pivot, and we need to think in new directions and not be stuck in the tragedy, but turn it to something by raising our individual consciousness as to do something positive, something hopeful.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So Oedipus learned something, we'll go over this gentleman right here. Yeah. Oedipus learned something at the end. He comes to some consciousness of his own agency and also culpability, and then he turns that violence inward. And I hear you saying that that part is unnecessary. That part maybe that part wasn't inevitable. Maybe when you're confronted with consciousness where you see that the pollution and the blood is on your hands, the more violence toward yourself or anger or shame is not the way forward. And I hear you saying, I think, that it's incumbent upon us when we become conscious of our own role to find a way to channel those emotions toward pivoting, toward adaptation, toward action. So I like that very much, but you're gonna have the final word, so please bring us all the way home. I know, all joking aside, you don't have to tie things up. Whatever you say will be a perfect last word.
Thank you. Having the last word is a lot scarier than I thought it'd be. So, hi, I'm Alex. I'm a freshman in the SFS, and I wanted to talk about inevitability, just the idea of the inevitability of Greek tragedy, and I don't think what happened to Oedipus was inevitable. Throughout the story, he's relentless in fighting the prophecy. He won't listen to Tiresias. He won't listen to Jocasta, to, well, frankly, people who know better. And in his ego, his wretched manliness, so to speak, he does himself in. And you can probably kind of see where I'm going with this. In that scenario, we are Oedipus. Ideally, none of us have killed our fathers or inseminated our mothers. That would be freaky and gross. But we are Oedipus before the wretched and before the fall from grace. Oedipus in his story is a potential bad ending, and we're not there yet. We have a chance to fight for a better ending, to listen to those who are speaking the truth, or to those who know better, for lack of a better term, and we can still fight for a better ending. Now, there is a caveat that in Oedipus, there's sort of an argument that the resolution is to hide the truth, whereas for us, our solution is to expose the truth, to listen to it, to use it. But the fundamental fact of the matter is denying those who have more knowledge on these problems is evidently going to do us in.
Thank you. From a first-year student's lips to our ears, a beautiful last word. I'm grateful because I have a 15-year-old daughter, and you're not much older, and I think, 4 years. It's 3 years. You can't date her. Just kidding. 3 years, and I worry about, the perspective of inevitability. What are we passing? And so the spiritedness with which you said what you said, I think it's a beautiful last word to this conversation, because we're not going to tie this conversation in a bow, but we've met a Greek tragedy together as a community, and we've ended with a first-year student from Georgetown saying, I don't think this end is inevitable for all of us. So we have a benediction that we offer at the end of every performance, and it's simply this. If you've related to anything that's been said in this room or on Zoom, you're not alone in this room, as evidenced by this conversation we've started, but by no means finished. A little late, but we got here late. You're not alone across the country and the world, as evidenced by the many performances that have come before and will be carrying with us the wisdom that we heard at Georgetown to our next performance and sharing it in another community. And that's how it goes with our model. Most critically, you are not alone across time. And that can bring great comfort to know that you're not the only person to have felt the emotions that were displayed in this play or in this room. It can also bring anguish to know that we as a species have not found a way to plan for subsequent generations that we'll never know or meet, or seen beyond our seemingly limitless capacity for denial to acknowledge our own complicit role in the destruction of the things that we should be protecting. So we leave you with both hope and anguish. And after an early performance of one of our projects, I ask a question obviously all the time: why did the playwright write the play? And in the first instance, it was actually here in Washington, D.C., a woman, a general officer in the American Army, stood up and she said, "I think he wrote the play to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable." And I hope we did a little of both for everyone here tonight. Comfort that we can come together across disparate experiences, ages, genders, all axes of diversity and pluralism, and hear a shared story and connect with each other in a room and on Zoom at the same time. Comfort that there are so many ways that we can find common ground in spite of our differences and the things that have divided us, especially over these hard last 6 years. And afflicted by the reality that there is so much more work to be done to raise the consciousness of everyone on this planet so we can collectively take action and avoid the tragedy that seems inevitable before it's too late. And it's with that sense of affliction that we leave you, with the hope that it leads to more dialogue, more searching conversations during DC Climate Week here in our nation's capital, more truth-telling, and most critically, action. And with that, I just want to thank our panelists and our actors one more time with a huge round of applause. And thank Earth Commons and the lab for inviting us to collaborate at this beautiful Gaston Hall. Thank you all for coming out tonight. You're all on our mailing list, so you'll be getting a message about our next performance next week. We hope to see you again very soon. Be safe, be well.